Hi again, it's Liz. Today I wanted to delve a little bit into something that I brought up, I think, in the very first video, which is called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm a military veteran, and I am a veteran of the global war on terrorism, basically post 9/11. What happened? We were in the first run of people to go over there and deal with what was going on in the Middle East. I was never forward. I stayed at an operating base at the edge of where things were going on. I was in Kuwait, but we were still attacked. We were still shelled. We still had problems in our tent city where we slept. Like, we still were not 100% safe. I know I shouldn't have to quantify that, but I feel like I do. I had one angry, ridiculous person one time come at me online about, oh, you were fat and happy at a forward operating base. Shut up, quit your crying. You weren't even there. You have no idea. So that's my little thing. I just needed to get that out there. All right. So that being said, which I understand is anyway, on and off with therapy for years. For me, it wasn't so much the war itself, while that has played a huge role in my mental health and in my systemic thought processes. It wasn't just that event. Boot camp in general had a massive effect on me. Sometimes I think it had more of an effect on me than some of the others that I was in platoon with. You have to have a certain mindset when you're going into any military training. It is not a simplistic thing. They literally break you down to rebuild you in the way they need you to be. A standard civilian, no matter how well prepared he or she believes they are in daily life, they don't go through the mental work that has to be done to create a soldier. It's intense, to say the least. Now, I can only speak specifically of my boot camp. I was Marine, so we have the longest, we have the most difficult. Our boot training, like the initial training, is 13 weeks long, and then just they let us off for 10 days. They bring us back in for another 2 to 3 weeks for what they consider specialized combat training. Other branches only do maybe 6 or 8 weeks total, and they lump in a lot of their things, or they break it up into sections. Like, they'll have certain training programs for a month or two, and then they'll let you off for a minute, and then you'll go back mainly for what you're going to do, like your specialized combat stuff, and then they'll let you off, and you go and do your school, whatever your MOS was, whatever your job was going to be. The Marine Corps, they're a little special in the way they do it. And the breakdown process, I saw it literally break a couple of people. Literally. One girl was carried out by MPs because she just couldn't take it, and we weren't even halfway through training. Other girls made it through training, but they were not okay at the end of it. Some of them were mentally discharged before we even got to our MOS schools. Others of us, we did the best we could. We kept our mouth shut. We moved fast, and we got through it. I don't discuss it. I will talk about it with other veterans. But there's no way for a civilian to comprehend losing your rights as a human being. I even had a friend argue with me when I told him that I was government property. He said, "No, you're not. That's slavery." And I said, "Really?" Yeah, it is. But it's voluntary, and that's their excuse. Well, it's voluntary. You signed up for it. You're right, I did. I did. Now, were all the things I was going to lose transparent to me upon signing? No. And no MEPS, no recruiter, no nothing will ever tell you every detail of what you're giving up about your life. They don't tell you that you can't sue the military for anything. They can harm you. They can physically break you. They can mentally break you. They can do any measure of anything to you. And because you volunteered and the nature of the document that you signed at MEPS, not at the recruiter's office, at MEPS, at the place where you swear in before you leave. When you sign that final document, you sign away every civilian right you have. They will never tell you that. You don't find that out. If you're lucky, you find it out once you get in the fleet. If you're not lucky, I'm telling you that for the first time, and it's going to snap in your head, and you're going to say, holy crap, that's true. It's the way it is. Complex post-traumatic disorder is a layering of events. Normal, standard PTSD is a person has undergone a specific thing. Whether it was a prolonged thing, like a continuous thing, or whether it was one major event that happened to you that it just shook you so freaking bad. It forever affects the way you see the world. Whether, you had something happen at your job, and from that point forward, being in specific rooms or in certain lighting or whatever, hearing certain music, you may not hit the floor and start crying, but you freeze. You go into yourself and become depressed for a few days. You get very agitated and you're just like, get me the heck out of here. I can't take this. I can't take this. There's a lot of different responses to it. Everybody has their responses to post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're their own, because none of us deal with fight or flight the same way. Not all of us are fight. Not all of us are flight. Some of us freeze. Some of us try to make the situation better. There are several layers to how we respond to trauma. Complex post-traumatic disorder, which is not in the DSM-5 right now. And the last version of it that came out was 2013. It is layers of traumas. Most of the time it starts in childhood. It's usually with either a dismissive or abusive parent, or literal, very, very specific abuse. I don't want to trigger anybody. This has got some, I guess I should have put a trigger warning at the front. But it's going to be very specific. And as I said, usually it starts in childhood. And because we're children, we just respond. We're still learning, so we may not know to fight against, or we may not know how to fight against, or we may not feel powerful enough to fight against, even if we realize we're being abused. See, that's the other part of it. Children sometimes don't realize up front, immediately, that it's abuse. They think it's normal. Now, you take that, and then you fast forward. Maybe you have some good adolescent years or some good, 20s or whatever. And then all of a sudden, an event happens, or a series of events happen. It reinforces the original trauma response. You deal with it however you deal with it, whether you never go to therapy and you just stuck it, you compartmentalize and you walk away, or you go to therapy and it's like, this thing happened to me and I'm getting over it. Fast forward, there's another event, and then there's another event, and then there's another event. And what they do is they layer. That creates a complex system of traumas that basically, as they reinforce each other, as you hit a certain point in your life, that's what therapists call stuck points. Well, when you're going into therapy and let's say you have anger issues and they're trying to walk you through how to be not aggressive, but assertive. Well, I have to be aggressive because that's a stuck point. I have to like protect myself. I have to do this. That's a stuck point. So what you're supposed to do is challenge the point. You're supposed to say, well, why do I need to protect myself? Why do I need to be aggressive? Once you get down to the why, then you can sort through and say, okay, maybe I don't need to literally be aggressive. Maybe I need to pick my battles or work out what assertiveness is and say, you know what, I feel like you've wronged me. I don't need to hit you. I need to tell you, you know what, you're a jerk. Go to hell. I'll never speak to you again. That's the difference between assertive and aggressive. Aggressive is straight to the point, you know what, screaming, yelling, hitting, punching, whatever. Assertive is saying your piece if you need to say it, walking away. Usually when there is a reaction like this that's overt and it's your, like the weirdest thing will, set you off. You're cooking and the water boils over and you just start losing it, whether you're screaming, crying, oh my God, the water's boiling over. Even if all you have to do is turn the fire out. It's a simple fix and it's just water. Okay, big deal. Wait till it's cooled down for a second, throw a towel over it, wipe it up later. But the act of the water boiling over, the act of it being your pot of water that boiled over, it's, who knows what that's going to bring back into your head. So other people are staring at you going, why are you freaking out because the pot of water boiled over? Just stop. There's no reason to react like that. And they're right. In a normal situation, there's no reason to react badly to water boiling over. But we're not talking about a normal person. We're talking about a person who has been drugged through crap after crap after crap. And that sensation, that moment, brought them back to a situation, brought them back to one of those traumas or several of those traumas. And they're not, like I said, sitting in the floor freaking out, just losing it and can't get up. And, they may not even remember specifically what the moment was. But they remember that sound. They remember how they felt. Their emotions, they remember. Those neurons are sitting back going, this is bad. Let's start going crazy. You may have suppressed that memory completely. So the memory of whatever it was is so compartmentalized, it's so tucked back, it's irrelevant. People may not remember points in their life because it was so bad. Well, especially with children, a lot of times what your brain will do to protect you, it will take it and it will veil it and it will stick it way back in the deepest recesses. So you don't really know why you get depressed during the holidays. There's no reason for it. Like you look back through it. Okay, well, I typically have enough money. People get a gift here and there or, well, maybe it's seasonal depressive disorder or whatever, the thing where the dark screws with you. Maybe it's that, The reality is, way back somewhere, Christmas was consistently made bad for you. Consistently. I mean, like a 10, 12-year span, every single holiday season, there was a thing. There was something. Your neurons remember the fact that you were sad. Your neurons remember you were depressed. Your neurons remember that you felt helpless. So fast forward 30 years, you don't want a Christmas tree. You don't care. It doesn't matter how good your year was. It doesn't matter that you get to have your kids at home and your grandkids and it doesn't matter. Your neurons remember the instant you hear the music, the lights, the food. This is bad. I don't like this. I just want to go to bed and not come out till it's over. That's complex post-traumatic disorder. I am severely, abbreviating this. I have a book that my therapist recommended to me after we just could not get past stuck points at all. And I just kept reiterating the same things. And he had enough. And I think what happened with him was, because he was like my second therapist in the last several years. And I did the same thing to the first lady. It was, but this. Well, I'm still having, no, Liz, that's not the problem. You need to go deeper. So I'm showing a screen on a screen, and I'll put the link. It's Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. He is a therapist. He wrote the book. He delved into it for himself. He came from an extremely abusive background, and there were a lot of things in his adult life that just made no sense. And when he started picking apart why they made no sense, that's when he discovered that this is a thing. And he started seeing consistencies with other patients. And when he developed the therapy to go with not just himself, but with them, he started noticing that they were actually improving. And it wasn't just the classic cognitive behavioral therapy, which is great, and it works for a lot of people. It has helped an immense number of people, as well as various meds. Sometimes, if there's other things layered in with this, like if there's OCD tendencies that have just been super, super reinforced, then yeah, there's going to be certain meds that are going to really help the person. But he got into this and he started seeing the consistencies with the healing, and he just started writing about it. I think there's also a website that he uses, like he writes for it. And it's real. It's a thing. One of my biggest issues with therapy up to this point has been when I talk about like some of the places where I'm stuck. Well, there's rules. I have to do it this way, that there's a way to do this. And the therapist is sitting back going, you know what? You can do it any way you want. My brain immediately begins to scream. Immediately. I was raised that there are rules for everything. Period. End of story. There is a way to do everything. And you either pick the right way or you don't. If you pick the right way, then it should work. If you pick the wrong way, well, guess what? You're going to fight with it. I went into the military. I cannot explain to you how easy boot camp was for me. The tasks, the regimentation, it was nothing. It was nothing. I caught on and I rolled with it so fast it was stupid. What got to me was once I got into the fleet, the inconsistencies, because you stop being a robot and you start being a real person again to a point. So people broke rules. And people didn't live up to the values, the core values. But they were still praised. Like, you weren't supposed to talk about them. You weren't supposed to, say, oh, well, they're not being a good Marine or they're not being a good person. You couldn't say that. Even if they weren't being a good person or a good Marine. But if you did one thing out of line, they were going to talk about you. They wouldn't say, well, she's not a good Marine. They would say, you know what, you did an amazing job over here, but you're crappy over here. Like, you really screwed this up super bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell you that you're good. We're going to tell other people that you're good. But we're going to take away a reward that we promised you. We're going to dangle it in front of you, but we're going to take it from you. We're going to make sure you know you weren't good enough to earn it because you screwed up that thing over there. Even though the award has nothing to do with that thing over there, it doesn't matter. A lot of gaslighting. I didn't know what it was called. Like, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know gaslighting was a thing until several years after I had been discharged. I had one specific incident. I'll get into that if I choose to way later. But basically, I did the very, very, very best I could. I covered every base that I knew how to cover. But I did it the way a civilian would have done it. Like, if I would have been in this exact same scenario at my hometown, I did it exactly the way I would have done it as a normal person. I got strung up and strung out by like 3 different people. A couple of them weren't even in my chain of command, but they horse collared me and they let me know what a shitty human being I was because I didn't do it exactly their way. That's it. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being a whiner. Literally, I didn't do it the way they dictated a troop should do this specific thing that had nothing to do with the military at all. It was housing, and it wasn't even base housing. It was my own personal private place to live off base. I didn't do it their way. So I got hung out to dry. Little things like that. And the things that they said to me at the time, my brain was just spinning. I'm like, why? Why are you saying I did this? I didn't do that. Why are you saying, well, you spoke to this person on the phone? That person wasn't even there that day. How do you even know my name? Who called you? Why would anybody call you and say I was, I don't know, not borrowing money from the right person? Like, who knew how to do this? My brain was just spinning and just, I could not grasp why. Well, now, of course, hindsight being 2020, I know they were gaslighting me. They, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was talk like gossip or if, I don't know, me skipping the step that they didn't want me to skip. I don't know if it embarrassed somebody or got someone in trouble. So their goal was to come after me. I don't know. But they went after me. And that in and of itself was not traumatizing, per se. But imagine 4 years of your life where being gaslighted starts, or yeah, being gaslighted starts the minute you meet these people. And essentially it never stops. Like, you get out, you do your enlistment, you get out and you walk away. It should stop around the time you're done with them and you walk off that base the last time. Not really, because, you know, at that point when you get out into the world and you're a veteran, oh my God, you're so great. Holy shit, thank you for, you know, protecting the country. I did a job. You don't need to thank me. Thanks, though. I mean, thank you for thanking me. I literally never know how to respond to that. And then there's the stories or the get-togethers or the veteran groups, and they want you to join and they want you to talk about it like it's the most amazing experience you had. Oh, it was so great. We went here and we did that. And remember this time? No, it wasn't great. I'm a civilian now. I like knowing who I am. Thank you. So when you go through your life and your identity is told to you, I was raised in a mostly fundamentalist light community. You're kind of your standard Southern community, but kind of the classic, heavy on religion, heavy on very specific, strict morality, light on individuality. You can be an individual as long as it pretty much fits in these parameters. You can be unique. You can be special. Don't be too unique or too special. Then you're a danger. So you grow up with these ideals. You put yourself into a situation where you have these forced ideals again, and they're literally brainwashed into you. We'll go over that one day too. And you continue to live your life this way. You marry a person who, the term narcissist is thrown around a lot. Let's say they have those tendencies. Okay, so then the little bit of delicate gaslighting never really stops. Being reminded that you're not quite good enough no matter how hard you try, that never stops. Just little shadows of things, they just remain. So when the therapist looks at me and says, hey, well, you can get past, all you have to do is make the choice. All you have to do is really simple. Make the choice. I can be my own person. I can have my own belief system. You want to run that by me again? I can do what now? No, because there are rules. And the rules say I'm supposed to believe what I was taught. The rules say I'm supposed to believe what is right. The rules say, we could do this all day long. What are society's rules? What are your religion's rules? What are, let's say you are just into your job. That is the end all be all. It's what you do. It's who you are. That job has rules. So if you have these blocks that are cemented in place for you, it's not like being able to just slip your foot out. You got to break that block. You've got to fracture the ideas. And there's nothing remotely easy about that. Nothing remotely easy about fractioning things that have been ingrained in you literally your whole life. I'm being a little bit generic on purpose. And, I'm still searching. I'm very early in reading this book, but so many things make sense. It's waking up so much. So as this progresses, then I can start explaining a little bit more and breaking it down and saying, this came from childhood. This came from seeing this really specific jacked up thing. Okay, this came from my time in the military. This really bad thing happened, and I thought I got over it. I didn't. This other event happened when I got home. I thought I got over that. I didn't. Well, then this other event happened, and then this other event happened. And I had laid them all out for my very first psychiatrist years and years ago when I first was discharged. And at that point, this was not a thing. So he didn't ever bring this up. What has been told to me is I don't fit enough of the criteria in the DSM to be formally diagnosed. In order to be diagnosed with a mental disorder or for it to be listed in your chart as that thing, let's say there's 20 points you've got to meet more than half the points. I did not. And I don't know. I think I still don't. But I'm like right on the edge, so like if the number is, I should meet 15 out of 20, I meet like 13. And they really don't like putting that label on us as veterans. They especially don't like doing it to female veterans. Unless, some really horrific thing happened to me and I was bold enough, and yes, bold is a deliberate word, if I were bold enough to report it, then maybe I'd get diagnosed. We'll get into those things later too. So anyway, this was just a touch base, and this was to introduce the book that I'm working on. Maybe if there's somebody out there having their own issues, look it up. Just look up complex post-traumatic stress disorder, complex PTSD. There's some literature about it. There's some decent articles about it online. There's some fairly helpful websites, at least to give you an idea of what it is and how they define it. Hopefully at some point it will end up in the diagnostic manual and they'll start looking at it more closely. So that being said, thank y'all for sitting with me. If there are questions, I don't know how many people have seen these by now, but if you have questions, please list them. And I will try to answer what I can. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just a jacked up girl trying to get through life and raise chickens, So, but thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.